I'm still not sure what happened that night. Back in late 2014, around October or November, I was 18 years old. I was very much enjoying my new freedom from the confines of childhood. At the time, I just got my driver's license and drove a 1998 Chevy sports van. I did everything in this van, and because I had a hangout spot on wheels, I started making a lot of new friends. One night, when I went to go see some of my newfound friends, something happened that I cannot explain. It was late when I decided to drive some odd 25 miles to see my friends. Between my town and their town are just quiet, dark country roads, every once in a while passing a driveway with a streetlight on the property. Ever since I was a kid, there had always been one road around the county that people liked to talk about. They called it Swamp Road. The road is located right past the local high school in the county closest to my town. This school is in the middle of nowhere and it's just very eerie at night. The road itself is dark and quiet, located right in the middle of a large patch of woods, so at night it's even more terrifying. As I pulled onto the road, I managed to keep my cool. This road is a commonly used shortcut to where I was going, and I had no issue driving down it at the time. The road has several hills and then comes to an opening out of the woods, then banks right, and then banks left again, before hitting more hills and finally a stop sign. As I was hitting the last hill before the opening, at the edge of the woods, my eyes locked onto a bright white sheet on the side of the road. It was so distractingly bright I almost ran off the road. I ended up passing the white sheet and continuing forward, but I started to think about things. I've always been one to think about bags on the side of the road. What if it's money, or someone threw out a dog they didn't want, or something worse? My curiosity got the best of me, and once I hit the stop sign, I decided to turn back to see what it was. Right before the first turn, there is a small field entryway that I parked at. For some reason, I decided to turn off the headlights and shut the van off. I'm guessing it was my teen angst of not being afraid. The walk back to the edge of the woods was kind of longer. The only reason I didn't want to park closer is because a car could potentially come over the hill and get freaked out and wreck because of the van being parked there. So I parked a little ways back and walked towards the edge of the woods. The moon was pretty bright, so it wasn't too scary, but once I got closer to the woods, some of the trees that were not quite dead yet covered up the light, making it nearly impossible to see. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight to see that the sheet was completely gone. Nothing was there. My heart sank at first, but I just thought maybe it wasn't at this hill, maybe the next hill up. So as I was walking up the hill to see if it was on the next, I heard a rustling in the woods. I didn't even get the time to think. I didn't know if the sound was going away or coming towards me. All I remember was hearing something running fast in the woods, and it sounded like whatever it was dragging something along the ground. I ran back to the van, started it, and immediately got out of there. During the drive to my friends, I tried to tell myself that whatever I just witnessed was completely understandable and rational. Maybe it was a sheet full of trash and an animal had come and drug it away and got spooked when they heard me walking towards them and ran away. I got to the park that I usually pick my friends at and waited for them to get here. I got out of the van to throw something away near the bathrooms when I saw little wet handprints on the rear and side of the van. I no joke was looking at dripping handprints on the windows of my van. There was no one in my van, I was the only one there. If maybe someone was trying to prank me back at Swamp Road, then how did the handprints stay wet through the whole drive to town? I was driving well over the speed limit because I was scared. To this day, this is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. It's the last weird thing that has happened to me, and there is nothing that I can think rationally what could be the reason. This happened back in the fall of 2016. I live in a very small and rural community where everyone knows everyone. The state that I live in allows rifle mule deer buck hunting during the first week of October. Sustenance hunting is very important in the culture of my area. This fall, I was lucky enough to have drawn a buck tag. I had made plans to hunt on my grandmother's farm on this evening. Given that I am a smaller woman, I had asked my husband to go with me in case I killed something. He could help me pack it out. However, he could not go due to work obligations. Fine, no problem. I have hunted this farm many times by myself. I know it like the back of my hand. I strapped on my boots, grabbed my rifle and binoculars, tucked my cell phone into my pocket and made my way to my Jeep. My grandmother's farm consists of corn, bordering an alfalfa field along a river. Between the river and the farm are lines of old growth trees. This is the perfect place to fillet a buck tag. I parked my Jeep about a mile upriver from the fields, then began walking along the tree line towards the area where the deer had mostly been feeding. At the opposite end of the field, there is a large haystack where all the harvested alfalfa is stored. As I saw it coming into my field of view, I felt the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I kneeled down and viewed the area through my binoculars. I could see a very tall, large man walking briskly towards me from behind the haystack. I knew for a fact that I was supposed to be the only one hunting this farm on this night, as I had just spoken to my grandmother. Something inside me told me I needed to get out of the area as fast as I could. I initially tried to turn around and walk back down the trees to my Jeep, but given that I have such short legs, this guy was quickly closing the gap quickly. He was still several hundred yards from me, so I decided to try to cross the river instead. I found that the river was too muddy and deep for me to safely cross. I thought my only option was to attempt to get signal on my cell phone. When he walked across a small ditch and disparaged from my line of sight, I quickly darted into the corn and kept quiet. I could hear him walking closer and closer. I desperately tried to call my husband. Back then, the closest cell towers were over 30 miles away, and cell service was extremely spotty. I could not connect to my husband or 911. By this point, the man was within 100 yards of me. I could hear him ripping corn out, stomping around and loudly cussing. Where the fuck did you go? Another issue is it was getting dark quickly. I definitely did not want to be in the dark alone with this man. I watched him for a few minutes and was able to determine that he did not have a gun. After weighing my options, I decided to step out and see if I could de-escalate the situation as I work in healthcare and work with mentally unstable people all the time. I stepped out of the corn. "Hi, I'm sorry if I interrupted you hunt or something. I did not mean to cause any harm," I said with a sweet smile on my face. I made sure there was at least 80 yards of distance between us. His eyes locked with mine, and it was obvious there was something with this man. He stood about 6 feet 5 inches tall. His clothes were absolutely filthy, stained with what appeared to be his own waste and sweat. His shirt was torn and had dried blood on it. His face was crooked as if he had had a stroke prior, and he slurred his words. "There you fucking are!" he yelled. He reached down and grabbed a massive stick. I'm talking a stick at least 5 feet long. He could have easily killed me with this stick. I stood my ground and grabbed my rifle from my back and pointed it at him. He stopped holding the stick. We looked at each other for a second when he began yelling. "Do you know whose farm you're on?" I stated, "Yes, this is my grandmother's farm. I've hunted it my whole life." The veins began to pop out of his head. "No, this is not. My wife is hunting in this cornfield and you ruined it. Because of you, she missed a huge buck, you stupid bitch." He became so enraged, he started making strange growling sounds and started spitting everywhere. I was running through the options in my head at this point when he suddenly started to lunge at me. I turned the safety off my rifle and loudly stated, "Stop, I will shoot if I have to." He froze in his tracks and just stared at me for about 30 seconds before dropping the stick. He grunted loudly with his eyes darting around. "Listen, I don't want to have to do something we will both regret. I am very sorry I ruined your hunt. If you turn around and walk away from me, I will leave," I calmly explained. I could see his thinking hard about what to do next when he mumbled, "Fine," and turned around, stomping back towards the haystack. My heart was about to beat out of my chest. I was not about to turn my back on this man, though. I watched until he walked distance away, and then I darted back into the corn. I thought back on how he said I spooked a massive buck and ruined his wife's hunt, but that did not make any sense. I had a good view of the whole field, and there were no deer present. I decided to observe him through my binoculars. I watched him climb up to the haystack and get into a small 2-door white car. He quickly peeled out of the haystack lot. I was able to catch that the car had California license plates, but nothing more. I live nowhere near California. He took off down the road, and he was alone. No one else was in that vehicle. I ran back to my Jeep and locked myself in it. I sped home as fast as I could and told my husband what happened. I had never seen this man in my life, and neither had my husband based off my description. We live in a community of about 200 people. Born and raised here, we know everyone. I called our local sheriff, and they came out and took a statement. I took them to the haystack where he was parked, and we found a knife lying on the ground. Of course, nothing could be done as I was not able to get a plate number or a name from the man. To this day, I still have no idea what the man's intentions were, even though I could guess on a few. It's been 8 years, and I have never seen this man again. I also decided that I'd be hunting with a buddy from then on. When I was 16 in the summer, August 2016, I had this girlfriend. She was always on my case, so I didn't take this too far at first. But one day I was home alone in my room. I was on the phone with her, and she was telling me a story, and suddenly she asked me who I was with. I was like, no one, I'm in my room. She then asked who's the girl I'm with. I got defensive, as literally no one was even in the house. She told me she heard a girl say something about breaking in through the window. She asked if it was the TV. I said there's no TV in my room or even on that level in my house. I just brushed all this off. We broke up very soon after. October 2016, I had this friend I was on the phone with. Same scenario, I'm home alone in my room. She's telling me a story and pauses. I asked what the pause was for, and she says, "Oh, I heard your mum or someone talking with you." I explained I was home alone. She then says to me, whoever is there is talking about breaking in through the window. I got scared now, thinking back to my ex. Then she says she hears a man and a woman talking loudly, and then it disappears. I went in the hallway to go downstairs, and it was oddly cold, and she said the man sounds creepy, like as if I'm watching a scary movie. I went to the kitchen, and when my mum got home I told her, and we looked upstairs and a door slammed shut in front of us and then the toilet flushed. I didn't like the vibe of my house after that, but nothing like that happened again there until I moved out. This happened when the original Paranormal Activity came out into theatres. I was 18, turning 19 on the 29th of October, and I was obsessed with watching horror movies at the time, of any kind. But the problem was, I had grown bored with the films. They had grown predictable, and I was craving something to truly scare me. Well, that movie was Paranormal Activity, not because of the actual film, but because of what followed my mother and I home from the theatre from that movie. I just wanted to be scared, was the thing I said to my mother that afternoon after we had watched the movie. And scared I was. Demons to us, my family, are a very real thing. We try our best to avoid them, remove things in our house that could be a doorway to bring them into our home, and anoint our house often to keep them out. We started going into extreme lengths to keep them out even more because of what I'm about to tell you. My mother and I went and saw the film. The theatre was filled with this super thick, heavy feeling. It was like we walked into a room of creepy, heavy jelly that just saturated the room. I mean, you could cut it with a knife, it felt that thick. That should have been the first red flag that we shouldn't have been in there, that we should have left that moment. We stayed though, and by doing so, both my mother's and my fear fed whatever that thing was that was coming through the film, hit us like a freight train and attached itself onto us. A certain scene in particular made my fear skyrocket, and if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. When the footprints appeared, I lost myself to my fear completely when that scene came. Now I don't know if any of you understand the way demons work. Fear is like a fucking beacon to them, and they feed off of it, and they become stronger by that fear. The more fear you have, the stronger they are, and the possibility of them manifesting and causing problems come into play. Mine was a giant fucking lighthouse of a beacon, my mother's as well. It followed us home, whatever it was that was projected from that film, and it became 3 days worth of terror for us in our home. First day and night, we came home from the theatres. The heavy feeling I mentioned above never left us. Mum and I were silent. We usually talk each other's ear off after a film, but this time around we didn't say a word. By the time we got home, my stepfather came to the door immediately and saw the look on our faces and made this phew noise and stepped back. Something followed you home. I can feel it on you guys, he said. Mum and I said that we knew that, we all prayed, anointed our house again, and just went on with the rest of our night, thinking we had taken care of the issue. Boy, were we wrong. We still felt the heavy energy, but I guess we ignored it, thinking the original prayer worked and that we weren't going to have any more issues. We ended up going to bed around 10 or so and expected to go to work the next morning. Well, 3 a.m. came and I felt something touch my leg, along with an impression form on the mattress next to me. I was sleeping in the fetal position, so the impression formed between my knees and chest, so I really felt it when my mattress sunk. I woke up immediately, freaking out. I could feel that panic and fear take over. This was the first time that anything had done something physical to me that was demonic. Once they get physical, I knew that the control was lost and that they could do some serious damage. So I was flipping the fuck out, turned on the lights and noticed my door was open. I usually close my door to my room. It's one of those things I have to do in order to sleep. I also had a paranoia about something watching me from the darkness of the hallway. That was a bad sign. I sat up and I started praying, trying to cast out whatever was in my room. I sensed it was in my closet. I focused all my prayers in that direction and started yelling my prayers, yelling for it to get out, that it wasn't welcome. That's when my parents came walking into the light of my room. They looked pissed but worried. It didn't leave the first time, was all I said. So they joined me in the prayers and we kept at it until the fear and the heaviness went away. We all went to sleep afterward. We had prayed for an hour. Second day and night. We were exhausted. Waking up so early and spending so much energy trying to cleanse our house had worn us all out. Work was long and tiring, so by the time we all got home, a good night's sleep was something we all looked forward to, but it wasn't going to happen. This night was when the footprints appeared in my carpet in my room. Remember that particular scene I mentioned above that scared the hell out of me? Those footprints appeared on the carpet in my room. Around the same time of night, I woke up feeling that fucking heavy ass feeling again. My stomach was going insane with fear and anxiety, and once again, my door was open. When I turned on the lights, that was the first place I looked, and I regretted it. As I watched, I saw those footprints form. I screamed, and here came the parents again. This night was very tiring, and we had learned that we had to literally grab onto these things to pull them out. That's right, you read that correctly. More than one demon was in the house that had followed us home. The main one that we could feel was the strongest, and otherwise there was over 50 of them by the end of the third day that we had physically grabbed and thrown out of the house. And now the crazy part I've been iffy about writing. How did we grab these things? We prayed first, got our house full of the spirit as my mother calls it. We spoke in tongues and allowed our senses to take over completely and grab these things and pulled them out to the doorway and clear out to the driveway. I know it sounds crazy. It's okay. I get it. I bet our neighbors thought we were losing our fucking minds. Anyways, we continued this until 5 a.m, when we were too tired to care anymore and went to bed. This grabbing and casting them out of our house physically. It was exhausting. Day 3, the final day. By this time we knew we didn't get everything out of our house, and we definitely didn't expect to have a full night's rest. I slept in my room rather peacefully until my stepfather and mother came in and said that it was still happening. This time, something had brushed my mother's beaded curtain that they had hung up against their closet door and had grabbed my stepfather's hand in his sleep. He had shot out of bed, freaking out and yelling. This was the last night that we had to physically pull these demons out of the house. We had been bitten, I had bite marks on my arms, stabbed, kicked at, and growled at removing them all. It took hours once again, but we really worked on removing them. We got them all by 5 a.m. The next day afterward, we played Christian music in the house 24 hours straight to make sure there were no more demonic shit in there. I know this story sounds nuts, but it really happened. And to this day, if I let myself feel fear whatsoever, that strongly, I'll feel that heavy feeling. I don't think it truly went away, but I work hard on keeping it far away. This is one of many stories about my family and their experiences with the demonic. Thank you for spending time with me. If you have a true story you'd like to share, something eerie, strange, or unforgettable, send them to my email in the description below. clairetruestory@gmail.com. I'd love to feature your story in an upcoming video. Until next time, stay safe, stay warm, and stay cozy.